Hi guys, this is my wife's 63 Valiant we bought early last summer, and we were having some engine issues, so I thought I would do a simple engine swap. Anyways, decided to clean up the engine bay and just kind of spruce it up a little bit. And so anyways, they had the engine out, and there was a little bit of rust on the inner fender down here by the steering box. So I cut that out, weld it, and I was gonna weld in a new piece, which I did. But anyways, we pressure washed the engine bay, and I'm cutting away the tin there, and noticed there's mud on the other side. So I looked on the other side, and there was the way the frame is engineered, that it kind of forms a trough and holds all the kinds of crap, and it's not a good thing. So if anybody's looking to buy something like this, the things to watch for is that little bit of rust. I thought it was just not much to worry about, just cosmetic. Turns out to be a whole lot more. Anyways, while I was in here, I'll show you a couple other things. The this steering column there, the lower bushing was pretty much non-existent. Well, the nylon bushing part was still there, but the rubber part that kind of centers it was gone. So anyways, Classic Industry sells a new one, $50 US, but in our Canadian money, that's like $100 plus shipping and everything else. So the nylon bushing was still there, so I took a hockey puck and kind of made a couple of different flanges on it on my lathe, and extra secured it into the steering column using a rubber hose and a hose clamp, and she'll be good. Way better than it was. And to change that end on the steering column, you gotta dismantle the whole steering column. You gotta pull it right out of the car. Not that it's a big deal, but it adds up. It's more things. Okay, and here's the other thing. When I was taking the engine out, it's so close to the firewall. Kind of not see, like right now the transmission is down a little bit. So when I put the engine back in, I'm gonna see if I can take one of the engine mounts off on the driver's side, because it's slant 6. There's no room on the other side when you're messing with it. So there's hardly any room for your hands to get those bolts out. Like it's a pain. So we're gonna try that one and put it in. And okay, what else? Okay, now up on the hood here, there was a big black stain, and I guess that should have been my indication right off the hop that something's wrong with this engine. There was so much blow by that, I cleaned it all up, so it looks okay now, but there was a huge oil stain on the underside of the hood. So different things to look for. Kind of keep an eye out if you're buying something like this. Like, things happen. It's a 60-year-old car, but kind of surprises. I'm sure the people we bought it from, they're friends of ours, and they wouldn't have stuck us, I don't think, if they knew about what was hidden underneath. And it even passed the safety, which I was really kind of surprised. But anyways, I'll show you some more stuff from underneath. I was having trouble here with the lighting, but maybe you can kind of get an idea. I welded in some pieces to kind of help support the bracket that holds the upper control arm. I've got it all painted up. It's kind of hard to see, but I'll throw in some still shots so you can kind of see what it looked like before and after I welded it up. You know, it's not pretty, but it'll work. And so, anyways. Okay, this is the passenger side. This is the way it's supposed to look. The passenger side was really good. There was no rust. The everything came apart nice and easy. And yeah, so it's these are the kind of things you got to watch for. You're looking for one of these cars like that. It's kind of like that trough there on top of the frame. It just holds all kind of mud and crap, and you know it's not cleaned out. These ears in the bottom on the other side were rusted away, but they still get held from the back side. And Classic Industry does sell this whole component here, like it's 250 bucks American, you know. But you kind of wonder too how many other things that opens up if you replace that, you know. Like it's a pretty big job. It's not even so much the $250 for the part, but the work that's involved. So, anyways, while I was had this all, like I was going to try and weld the other side with the upper arm in. Well, that'd be impossible, or really sketchy, anyways. So I took everything apart, and you know the bushings are 60 years old. So I thought, let's just change the whole front end uh, to have it back the way it was. You know, it's stock stuff, nothing fancy. You know, keep everything simple, and you know, and all that kind of stuff. So, show you a few things I did to get the job done. Okay, on this side, I've got it partially on the back together. Okay, that. Okay, I guess the first thing you got to do is unload the torsion spring, and that's not too bad to do. Just unbolt it from underneath. I put a paint mark on the bolt, and also a piece of masking tape on my socket, and I cranked this side back on the driver's side 29 full turns, released any pressure on the torsion spring, and undid the clip in the back, and I made a homemade tool to knock that torsion spring back, and fits into that where that paint mark is. I put paint marks on it to line it up after, so it goes back together the way it was, and you know, so everything should be pretty good. Did the inner and outer tie rods. I did the pitman arm last summer because the safety said needed a pitman arm. Well, to get it off, I put a little heat on it and messed up the seal. Well, probably the seal was dried out anyways, but so anyways, put a new seal in there. It doesn't seem to leak now. And okay, what else? Okay, taking. Okay, once that torsion spring is pulled back and the ball joints are, I use the pickle fork to split the ball joints. This is the new one back in, and the lower one's back in. This side's kind of coming together. And so, anyways, you undo that. Where is it again? Trying to get a clearer shot of that bolt. Okay, so when you undo that bolt, it releases that lower control arm and this strut mount. I found out that it's best to just undo the front part and slide the whole thing out as one piece after you've undid the steering knuckle. And that way you can put this in a vise instead of trying to hold it with a pipe wrench and putting divots into that rod. Just put it in the vise, because the back side is a 12 point, you need a 12 point socket to undo, and it's tight all the way. Okay, here's how I took out the bushings out of the upper A-arm. Okay, no store-bought things here. It's just a piece of pipe. I split it because it was just a little bit tight on that bushing flange, and but I actually ground some of the bushing flange away so that it'll slide in a lot easier. And like I say, it's just a piece of pipe. Kind of opened it up a little bit with a chisel, and pushes out pretty good. And you gotta kind of watch on the back side there where if there's a bunch of rust. It's probably best to clean the rust off, and in my case now I got paint on there, so gotta clean that off so it'll slide through the hole in the A-arm. And then to push it back in, I just use that, it's a piece of 1/2 inch ready rod in there, and I've got another piece of pipe that helps push it in, fits against that flange part on the bushing and pushes it in. And the other thing I noticed with these ball joints, I've got a 3/4 inch socket set, and nothing fit that thing, and so I just use a small pipe wrench. Can't use a big one, there's not enough room for the jaws, and just give it a whack with a good sized hammer, and she'll spin right out. But the threads in there are very shallow and they're fine, so you got to be careful when you're putting the new one in. So I actually put the old one in from the wrong way, just to kind of clean the threads up, and used a wire brush and stuff to clean the threads. And you just got to have it just lined up perfect so it'll just spin right in there, because I think you can cross thread it real easy. And I don't know if you can see here, it actually turns into the flange part all the way. You know, there's no threads sticking up, and yeah, so that worked out not too bad. Just a little bit of patience and time, and I'll show you some shots of the lower control arm. Okay, this is another homemade tool of mine for pushing that torsion spring back. It just clamps onto the torsion spring, and you know, it's just 2 1-inch pieces of angle iron, and bits and pieces of stuff kicking around at home, and don't even have to tighten it that much. Just pull out those once the spring is unloaded, and you take out the clips in the back. There's those little horseshoe style clips in the back you take out, and you just tap it back, and the thing just pops out like nothing. I was quite surprised. Actually, I think it's a lot easier to work with this than coil springs like on a Chevy or something. You know, I'm not a Mopar guy. I'm learning all this Mopar stuff, and you know, actually Johnny Mopar's got some good videos of how to do the front end on these 60s Mopars, but you know, there's some, he bought a lot of his tools, and I just thought here's a chance for people to see that you can actually make some stuff with not much, and it works. You save yourself a few $100. Anyways, this is the passenger side lower control arm, and so he's already got the bushing pushed out of there, and like I say, Johnny Mopar's got how to do that pretty good. But okay, so Here I'm just putting stock stuff back in. So there's the new bushing. It's just a Moog part, and okay, there's the that bolt I was showing you before on the frame to take out. And okay, what kind of happens too when you're doing it on here, the inner part of that bushing is going to be stuck on here when you take it apart, when you push it out from the backside. So what I did was I just went on my bench grinder and ground that sleeve down, and as it's getting really thin, it kind of changes colors, you know, because of the heat. So it's a good time to stop, and you can actually split that off pretty easily without damaging this thing very much. You know, like I probably got yeah, there's a nick, but all in all, not too bad. And so anyways, the other thing you got to watch is, okay, when you put this back in, okay, you press it in. You probably may not need a press to do it, but there's more than one way to skin a cat. But anyways, when you press it in, so that's all good. But now it comes to time to press in this into there. So seeing some of the guys on YouTube, they're using fancier ones, not the stock original stuff. And that's all good. I'm not a stock kind of guy either, but this is a lot cheaper, and you know, it's been good for 60 years, so it'll do me. So anyways, what you got to watch for is when you're pressing it in, that you don't press that inner sleeve out the other end. I'll just turn this thing over so you can see. Okay, because you can easily push it in, you know, like right out of it, and then you got an issue, because this is where that torsion spring, so you can see the six-sided part of the torsion spring that goes in there, and this is the adjuster for unloading it. That's the bolt. Flip it the other way. And see, I got a mark on it so I can count my turns. I don't know, I've done stuff before where I just mark the socket and the socket slips off and you lost your point. So I got a mark on the bolt and a mark on the socket. So when I put it all back together, and this is where that strut arm goes in. You know, that faces forward, at least on the 63 Valiant. And like I say, if you take that all in one piece, pretty easy to do, and hold it in a vise, the rod, so you can undo it. Like I cleaned this all up, and you know, so I'm going to throw some paint on it just to keep it from rusting anymore. Okay, but these are the cam and caster adjustments. They go up into the upper A-arm. The one on the left is the old one that came out, and the one on the right is the new one. Okay, kind of, I marked the old ones. Okay, this one would be the one in the front with the 2 marks, and kind of eyeballed it to the new one. Still going to need a front wheel alignment when at the end of it all. And then the other one is the rear one is marked as well, and it's just sort of getting it close, I hope. And yeah, just another little thing to help get it closer to where it should be. Got the upper A-arm in. It's a little bit of a struggle. I guess those bushings are just a little bit wider than the other ones. Anyways, I don't know if you can see it here, the caster and camber adjustment is about where it was. before I took it out, and that one too. And there's a ball joint. Still got to put the grease nipple on. Getting ready to put in the lower control arm. We've got the strut rod tightened in place into the control arm, and that's at the rear it's 110 foot-pounds, and up front it's 40 foot-pounds. Anyways, the Moog shows it to have that washer and that rubber like that. Okay, the lower control arm's in, steering knuckle is on, everything's tightening up to torque specs. Ball joint upper is tightened to 55, lower is 100. Got the torsion spring lined up, ready to smack in. What else? Had a little bit of trouble putting in the A-arm. Had to spread it a little bit more because of the bushing must be a little bit larger. Other than that, the video is getting a little bit long, so I just thought I'd show you a shot of the all the part boxes. Anyways, there's about $700 worth of parts here. Engine mount, a couple of front wheel cylinders and brake hoses, but the rest are suspension stuff. So anyways, do another video on putting the engine in.